everybody, it's Christina with My Confection Obsession, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a buttercream succulent cake. Before we get started, let's go over all the different materials that we are going to be using for this tutorial. So in front of me I have an 8-inch iced cake, and I actually just decided to do make a naked cake, so I think this is going to look really good when we put our succulents on top of it. So we're going to set that aside, and then we will be using it to decorate later. So I have my 8-inch cake. I have a lot of different shades of frosting. So what I chose to use are 3 different shades of green. I have a purple, I have kind of this teal color, and then this like mauve-y kind of brownish color. To make all of these different beautiful shades, I did use the Wilton color right system, and this isn't sponsored or anything like that. I just really loved the shades of color that I was able to use. It gives me like all these instructions on how to mix everything, so definitely recommend that. So you need all your shades of frosting. Obviously you're gonna need a lot of piping bags. And then I do want to let you guys know all the different tips that I used. So I used 2 different 104 Wilton tips. I used a Wilton 19, a Wilton 2A, and a Wilton 30. I used a Wilton 352, which is a leaf tip. I used a Wilton 124, and we are going to probably end up using a Wilton 18, which is a star tip. So in addition to the tips, I also have a couple different flower nails that we're going to be using, and then I actually just cut up my own little wax paper squares, and we are going to be using those as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to prep your flower nail. So I'm just going to take a little bit of buttercream frosting and just make a little dab on there, and you're going to stick your wax paper right onto it. And so the first succulent type I'm going to show you how to make is using a Wilton tip 104. This is actually the rose tip, so you guys might be really familiar with it. And I have this bag already prepped with my green frosting. So what I'm going to do is I am holding my narrow side closest to the bottom of the flower nail. So with this tip, you can see that it kind of is fatter at the top and narrow at the bottom, so the fat side is towards the top. So I'm going to pipe a little mound here, like that, just like you would a rose. Can you see this?
Yeah. Sorry, let me just check something real quick. Okay. Okay, keep going.
Okay.
You good?
So pipe my little mound, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make kind of like an N shape vertically, and I'm twisting my flower nail, and you're gonna see it's gonna start to look almost kind of like a green rose. So my first succulent is complete, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take it off the flower nail. I'm just going to slide it off. I'm going to set it onto a cookie sheet because this is eventually going to go into the fridge, and we're going to chill these for a bit before we put them on the cake. So I'm just going to slide it right off. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and do our second succulent. So same thing, I'm going to put a little dab frosting on my flower nail. Put my square. Okay, and for this succulent, I'm using a Wilton tip 19, and I'm going to use my bright blue frosting, which I have prepped already in here. Oops. Squeeze that down. So this tip to me kind of looks like an apostrophe or a comma, if you guys can see that. And what we're going to do, we're going to be holding it vertically and pulling it straight up. All right, so I'm going to pipe just in the center, going around in a circle. I'm holding this almost vertical to the piping nail, and I'm just going to continue to go around. So apply pressure, pull up, apply pressure, pull up. So I have my second succulent there, and same thing, I'm just going to pull it off and put it on my cookie sheet to go into the fridge later. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get our third succulent going. So this one's going to look like a cactus. So get my square ready, and what I'm going to do is, I'm using, both of these are the same shade of green, but I'm going to use my first tip. So this is a tip, not that one, this is a tip, a Wilton tip 2A, and you can see it's kind of like a big open circle, and what I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to pipe like a big mound that eventually is going to come to a cactus. And I'm just piping a mound that eventually we're going to cover using our other tip. So I'm trying to get some height here. So mound in the center. So I'm just literally just pulling straight up. Then what I'm going to do is I'm taking, my Wilton tip 30. So this is like a small star tip. Here, small star, and I'm going to cover the outside, and it's going to end up looking like a mini cactus. So I'm just going vertically on the side, straight up. So there's our third simple succulent. It's kind of like our cactus shape. I am going to go back in after this chills. I'm probably going to put like a little cactus flower on top of this and add a little bit more detail, but that's your basic shape. So that's our third one. Put that on the cookie sheet. All right, so for our next succulent, I'm going to use 2 different colors because I think the color variation looks really pretty. It makes it look more realistic. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that. It's super simple, and I think you guys can actually use this trick in other flower details that you might use, not just succulents. So I take my saran wrap, and I'm just stretching it out, and I think for this, I'm going to use this shade of green, and I think I'm going to use that mauve color. So what I'm doing, I'm just going to take that, and I'm kind of just going to give it like a smear almost on the saran wrap. And then I'm going to take my second color and do the same thing next to it. Then what you're going to do, you're just going to fold it over. Make a little frosting tube there. Okay, and I'm going to cut the end of one of these sides. So cut that end. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get my next piping tip ready. So this one, I am going to use a Wilton tip 124. So this is kind of like just a bigger rose tip. So pop that in there. then you're just gonna go ahead and put your tube of 2 colors right in there. Go ahead and squeeze it. All right. So I'm gonna get my frosting nail ready. So for this one, it's going to be really similar to that first one we made. So we're going to make a mound in the center. And then you're going to see as we go, both colors are going to come out. So same thing, it's like I'm making like an N or a rainbow just around this. Pretty. I think that looks like something you would see in the desert. For our next succulent, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to be using 2 different colors. So in the exact same way that I just did the last one, I'm going to do my 2 colors here. So I prepped this bag just like I did the other one. This tip that I'm using here is a Wilton tip 352, so it's a leaf tip. And so we're gonna start just by piping a mound in the center. And then I'm just going to turn it horizontally, and I am just pulling straight out. So I'm gonna go around and just keep overlapping these. Succulent is ready. For our last succulent, I am going to be using the Wilton tip 104 again, but this time I'm going to be using it in a different way. I am going to pipe my mound in the center like that, and this time I'm going to be making a U horizontal against the flower nail. You see, we're just building those leaves. Alright, so we have piped 6 different types of succulents, and what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to put them in the refrigerator for about half an hour so that they really firm up, and then I'll show you how to pop them on the cake. So our succulents have been in the fridge for about half an hour, and now they are firm to the touch, and we are ready to arrange them on our cake. So one thing I should mention is you can definitely leave these in the refrigerator for longer than a half an hour. You can even leave them in there for up to a few days if you want to prep these ahead of time before making your cake. But the minimum time they need, I would recommend, is about half an hour. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start arranging these in the way that I think they might look nice. The good thing about these is if I don't like it, I can actually just kind of move them around. So, oh, and these will peel right off of the wax paper. So I ended up not needing all the succulents because I wanted to leave a little bit of space in between because I want to go through with my star tip and just kind of fill those crevices in. So I'm just gonna fill in some of that space. So I think our succulent cake is complete. I love how it turned out. These are definitely a very modern looking cake. You can use them for baby showers, for birthdays, pretty much for anything that you want. And I hope you guys also like this tutorial. And as always, if you did, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel below. And you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest.